Good evening. Today we're going to look at a basic high school lesson on viruses, which is very fitting for what we have going on in the world today. There are many more unknowns about viruses than there are knowns. But some of the things that we do know, we know what viruses are made of. And what that is a capsid, which is an outer shell. That shell is made up of proteins. They also contain nucleic acid, which we know is DNA and RNA. But viruses can only have one of those. They cannot have both of them. They have a liquid envelope, which is similar to cytoplasm in regular cells, which the RNA or the DNA is surrounded by. Then they have what is known as surface proteins that can be attached to that capsid. So we know what they are made of. We also know that they come in many different shapes, but some of the basic shapes are spherical, which is like a round ball or a basketball. We've all seen on the news every day the picture of the coronavirus. It looks like a round ball with a lot of golf tees stuck in it. Then they come in a coiled up shape like a spring, which looks like a long cylinder. And then we have some that kind of look like a rocket shape, with a long cylinder body, a pointed head, and slender legs for it to support itself on. So that's the basic shapes. There can be other shapes, and these shapes can mutate. What does mutate mean? It means to change. That's one of the reasons viruses are so hard to contain, because they can constantly change. One of our next knowns is how viruses are transmitted. We know that they can be transmitted through contact, touching one another. They can be airborne, transmitted through the air, just breathing, or especially coughing and sneezing. They also can be transmitted through the water, which is known as waterborne viruses. So, that's some of the basic things that we do know about viruses. But one thing that we don't know is, where do viruses come from? It's like they just magically appear. And then all we can do is find out what we need to do next with the virus. If you go back to taxonomy, which is how we place living things into different kingdoms, the key word in there was living things. You won't find a virus in any of those 6 kingdoms, because a virus is considered neither living or non-living. It's neither one. If it was a living thing, it would share the 8 characteristics that all living things share, but it does not. A virus does have to have a living host to reproduce. If it doesn't have that living host, what does it do? It goes dormant. What does dormant mean? It means basically just kind of sitting and doing nothing. It's waiting for something to come along. One big question that is always asked, can you kill a virus? Well, if you buy a can of Lysol and read the label, it says kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria. But you can't kill a virus. All you can do with the virus is make the area that it's infecting uninhabitable for it to want to reproduce. So it just goes away. And that's what the vaccines do. It makes the area uninhabitable for that vaccine to want to reproduce. One word that we hear with everything that's going on is pandemic. What is a pandemic? It's a Greek word that means all of the people. So when a virus is termed pandemic, that means it can affect everybody in the world. And in closing, an American molecular biologist who was a Nobel Prize winner, Joshua Lederberg, said this: "The simplest, biggest threat to man's continued dominance on the planet is the virus." Hope you've learned a little bit about the virus. Have a good day.